I'm probably going to upset some Star Wars fans when I say that I don't enjoy this opening crawl. It's not the easiest to read, the information is mostly boring exposition, and really could have just been one paragraph saying this follows immediately after Force Awakens, but the Empire, our First Order, have a lot more big ships now. I don't think that they should outright remove the crawl, but maybe make it easier to read or convey the information in a better way. Now, the actual beginning of the movie. The rebels...
This is where we snuff out the Resistance once and for all.
The Resistance is escaping off this planet from Force Awakens, and they get exploded just as everyone safely escapes. Don't worry, we don't see this planet again, and it's fairly insignificant to the overall plot. All this scene does is set up how awesome the Dreadnought is, but unfortunately, the Dreadnought doesn't last long. Once the Resistance... Rebels... Look, what are they called again? I'm calling you the Rebel-sistance for now. Once the Rebel-sistance bail, Poe the Leather Jacket Man flies towards Hux' ship and says,
I have an urgent communique for General Hux.
I think he's saying General Hugs. The first few times I saw this, I thought Poe was just pretending not to hear General Hux. The subtitles clear it up though. He's saying Hugs and not acknowledging Hux.
General Hux.
Hi, I'm holding for General Hux.
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 Humor aside, why doesn't Hux just blow him out of the sky? Poe is clearly just buying time until he can get close enough to cause damage and be too hard to hit.
Captain Kennedy, why aren't you blasting that puny ship?
That puny ship is too small and to too close range.
If Hux and crew knew that a light vehicle would be too hard to hit at close range, why not pick him off at range? There's no reason not to. They've clearly established that they intend to destroy every fighter and kill all the Rebel Resistance.
Advance. No quarter. No prisoners.
It's not like Poe is a negotiator either. He's just some pilot. Blow him out of the sky before he can take out your surface cannons. It always annoys me in movies when airplanes or space planes fly directly through the explosion. You know that those turrets didn't just cease to exist when you shot them, right? There's a good chance that loads of debris and chunks of damaged metal are hiding inside that explosion. And that's not even addressing the physics of fiery explosions in space. But 9 movies into Star Wars, I'm perfectly happy conceding realism in favor of awesomeness. I don't think that's how electricity works, but at least it gives us a good chance to show off how adorable BB-8 is. Alright, this scene has 2 very different meanings depending if it's on your first or second viewing. If it's your first viewing, The Last Jedi has made absolutely no effort to let the audience know how few ships the Resistance has left, and that Poe destroys every single last bomber they own until after the Dreadnought has been destroyed.
Direct hit! Dreadnought down!
The first time through, Poe seems to be capitalizing on an opportunity to get a leg up on the First Order.
No, General, we can do this! We have a chance to take out a Dreadnought!
But when you realize that this fight destroyed, 60% of the entire Rebel fleet, Poe seems more like a mad kamikaze than a hot-headed pilot. Given how desperately the Rebel Resistance could have used these ships later in the story, Poe's actions are almost unforgivable here. It's absolutely demotion-worthy. Thanks, Leia.
You're demoted.
Now, the Dreadnought. How big is the Dreadnought? Well, maybe I'm just blind, but I struggle to even picture what the entire Dreadnought looked like. The movie does a fairly poor job establishing what the Dreadnought looks like and what the Dreadnought's scale is relative to Star Destroyers. Okay, from this angle, it looks like it could be forced perspective, and we can't really see the back of the Dreadnought at all. After the Dreadnought is destroyed, it looks like a supersized Star Destroyer, more or less, but it feels like they should have done a better job establishing size. Star Destroyers are massive, but we've had plenty of time to really understand how massive they are. Remember the opening scene in New Hope? That gave us an extremely good idea how big the Star Destroyers are. We really don't get that with the Dreadnought. Thankfully, they destroy what could have been the coolest vehicle in the entire movie within the first 5 minutes, so I guess it wasn't really worth showing off either. Look how much better Snoke's ship is introduced. It warps in between Star Destroyers and casts shadows down here on these ones. Plus the nice wide angle gives us a clear picture on how wide it is. I know what Snoke's ship looks like and how big it is in one shot. Why couldn't they do that for the Dreadnought? Oh, and this girl, Rose's sister, she would have let Finn take one for the team. While we're talking about her, first, lean forward and grab the ladder to shake it. You'll get a lot more shakes that way than if you keep kicking it. Second, she definitely missed this remote. She's laying on her back as it falls past her, then suddenly she grabs it while laying on her belly. That's not how that works. Also, wouldn't it make more sense for the bombing crew down here to also have a remote or a button to drop the bombs? Seems like a design flaw. I guess the Dreadnought followed the same design principle as the Death Star, destroy one spot and the rest explodes with it. Let's take a second to talk about Leia's scene. So, Kylo hops in a special squinty Darth Vader TIE fighter.
I'll try spinning, that's a good trick!
And blows up a bunch of the remaining escape ships, conveniently killing loads of people besides Poe and BB-8. He also has a chance to take out his mom, Leia, and doesn't do it. Leia's control room is bombed anyways, and she gets sucked into the vacuum of space. Now, I'm not a Star Wars comic reader, and I think Disney made most of the comics non-canon anyways. But do you know what usually happens to fleshy bodies in Star Wars' vacuum of space? Obviously they wouldn't make Leia exploded to gore, since Carrie Fisher actually died, but I did expect her to stay dead here. She doesn't though. She survives and force flies her way back to the ship. Good thing that airlock door was perfectly functional, right? Good thing none of that debris flying around didn't slice her to pieces. Good thing she was barely injured by the missiles. For the sake of the story, and for real life, Leia should have died here. Carrie Fisher passed away in real life, and they thankfully confirmed that we're not getting CGI Carrie Fisher in Episode 9, so this is her last movie. But Leia survives this movie. Does Leia get killed off-screen, Admiral Akbar style, between movies? Does she retire and become irrelevant to the Rebel Resistance after this? It doesn't make sense to keep her alive. It makes even less sense when you consider how absolutely pointless she is for the rest of the movie. She stuns Poe, she takes some phantom beads from Phantom Luke, she exchanges some words with Admiral Holdo, and what else? Nothing else. Sure, this scene is a great scene between Luke and Leia, but she doesn't do much besides be a recognizable face in the crowd. I think it would have been more effective to the story to kill her properly instead. Force Kylo to deal with the fact that he killed his father but couldn't pull the trigger on his mother. What does that mean? Is he still conflicted? That could have fed into his conflicted story arc better. Alright, Poe gets demoted, the rebels try to escape at lightspeed, and it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Well, the First Order can track you through lightspeed.
They've tracked us through lightspeed.
That's impossible.
How? They just can. They have a sci-fi device on board that's apparently common knowledge.
Active tracking.
What now?
And somehow completely shocking.
They can track us through lightspeed.
Yeah.
Active tracking.
I understand that Star Wars is very different from Star Trek in terms of the depth that technology is explained. But since the lightspeed tracking ends up being an absolutely massive plot point, I wouldn't have minded slightly more explanation. If they had explained the function of the tracker better, or maybe had to look for more information about the tracker, maybe they could have also explained a subtle or inherent weakness. Sort of like the Death Star's exhaust port. Something more interesting than simply, get hacker, hack device, could have been better. Now, before we continue on too much, let's take a very thorough look at our surroundings at the moment. Yes. The movie very intentionally places us in the middle of nowhere. We're not near any planets that we can see, we're not near anything particularly interesting. It's literally just empty space, from what we're being shown. Now, there is a planet nearby. From the perspective of Snoke looking at the Rebel Resistance, it's off to the right a bit. It's clearly visible when they show it later, so why are they hiding it now? Are they trying to give the audience the same surprise that the characters would have when they notice the planet? Maybe, but it's pretty reasonable to assume that all the characters would be well aware of this planet. It's visible, it's a life-supporting exoplanet, and it's within escape pod range. Anyone could have just looked out the window and seen the planet, so why isn't it shown to the audience yet? Oh, so they can surprise us, the audience, with Stupid Lady's stupid plan. It's only revealed to the audience, and apparently Poe, but really there's no reason it should have been a surprise to anyone.